Hi, welcome. I'm Don Bish. This is the Bolster Risk Management podcast dedicated to helping you through your personal insurance journey. Personal insurance is about protecting you financially should something happen like illness or accident or even death. For most people, it is there to replace your income or repay your debts should the worst happen to you. Bolster Risk Management is here to help protect you against risk, find value and build wealth, all at a pace that suits you and where you're at. All right, taking this journey together today. We're on episode 35. So here's a question. I use marijuana. Can I get insurance? Well, Mary Jane is not everyone's choice. But for those who partake, are they punished by the insurance companies? Not necessarily. So 4 key takeaways. The stigma, the myth and reality. What do the underwriters look at? Compounding issues like mental health. And then let's go back to earth gently. Right, marijuana. It's going to become a more topical topic for New Zealand as we head towards the referendum in September on the legislation of cannabis use. This article is not to pass judgment on that, but to view the situation from your financial risk management. Yes, personal insurance policies, life insurance, trauma cover, and all the like, they get assessed on application. And what does the occasional toke mean for users and their personal protection plans? So, there could be a perception in the general public or those who are not intimate with personal insurance that any and all drug use is classed as prohibitive for insurance. It is true that many narcotics are, they're woefully harmful to the mind, body and spirit. However, if the legality of alcohol use is any indicator, there are obviously grey areas where insurance underwriters may be comfortable with the health risks posed by their use. We know that insurance companies do not look too kindly on excessive alcohol consumption or smoking cigarettes, including e-cigarettes and patches in some cases, but they will accept some level of consumption. So what do the underwriters look at? So more broadly, underwriters have the unenviable task of balancing the needs of the client against a potential risk to the insurer. So they will look at the prospective client's application as both individual parts and as the whole. So how do different conditions relate to each other? So generally, there are a few basic questions that they're going to be asking just to determine the severity of any condition, okay, on the application form. So firstly, what is the condition? What is the thing that they're looking at? How long has a person had it? When was the diagnosis? What type of diagnostics and treatment were used, if any? Have the symptoms stopped, and if so, for how long? And is there any expectation or recommendation for future treatment and diagnostics? So these questions kind of form the basic assessment of most conditions that underwriters will address when looking at a new application for insurance. From here, depending on how complete or incomplete the information is, they'll either make a determination, yes or no, or they're going to request for further details. And normally the first place for them to look at is to go to the GP records and look at the doctor's notes of the client. Right, so back to our topic of marijuana use. There will be questions around how much and how often. There are going to be questions around are other non-prescription drugs used? If so, which and how often? Was the drug use due to a specific reason, maybe such as depression for a certain period of the life? There are another important point too. So what types of cover are being applied for? And this is quite relevant because our underwriters have different threshold requirements depending on the different products. Okay, so for example, life insurance products do not typically attract as many questions as a monthly paying income replacement product does, like income protection or mortgage repayment insurance. So compounding issues, what do I mean by that? So as mentioned above, each condition is assessed individually and then the applicant is viewed as a whole picture. Okay, so for example, the drug use. Was mental health or depression, did they play a factor perhaps? If so, that sets off another round of questions related to depression. How long was treatment? Was there any treatment? How long does symptoms last? Has there been a driving conviction due to a previous drug and alcohol use? Are there other health factors that have been disclosed on the application that may provide a different view for the underwriter? For example, are other narcotics used recreationally? If so, then the applicant potentially has a history which could be viewed as unstable for certain insurance products and certain companies. Right, so back to earth. So as we gently descend back to ground, if someone is classed as a moderate recreational user, so perhaps once a week, for example, of marijuana, then most likely, yes, they can get insurance. This is standard without extra pricing, without extra loading or conditions. However, as shown in the previous points, if other narcotics are used or have been used, then that might change the decision. If there is a history of mental illness, depression, or police charges or whatever else, then things might get a bit more complicated. So what this article should do, hopefully, is provide some clarity that just because someone has a condition or a life choice, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't get any cover. Insurance companies, believe it or not, also live in the real world. And if you can prove that you're not that risky to them, they will insure you. Ultimately, you don't know until you put in an application and let the underwriters do their job. It's in their interest to give you cover if they reasonably can, and no, they're not out to get you. But they do have to balance your risk against what is acceptable to the insurance business. Okay, right, as always, I always say none of this constitutes personal advice. I do talk in generalized terms to give you enough information to have a good chat, robust discussion with your advisor. If you don't have an advisor, you can't remember their name because it's been so long since you saw them, drop me a line, crack them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, old-fashioned email, pick up the dog and bone phone. It's quite easy to get hold of me. Until next time, catch you then.